But John Bachman is here with a different kind of number game having to do with presidential polls.
And game might be a very apropos word to describe this. We're talking about the Ames, Iowa straw poll. And it was just decided by the Iowa Republican Party that they're going to continue with this political exercise. And some folks are scratching their head as to why. Of course, there are a lot of straw polls in Iowa, but one that happens in Ames is the most important. We don't really know why at this point. It happens on the campus of Iowa State University when there's no incumbent GOP president running for re-election. And should it be still in existence, though? We know the president is traveling to Iowa today, but Republicans interested in succeeding Barack Obama are planning trips to the politically important state this summer. Some are already there throughout the winter as well. Ames, Iowa straw poll is big business, too, for the state's Republican Party, bringing in more than $1.5 million the last time around to the state party. But is that the only reason for this beauty contest? A lot of national Republicans are asking that question right now. Let's take a look at some prior results, a look back, if you were, and give everybody a brief history of the Ames, Iowa straw poll. First, in 1979, the Iowa GOP had at least half a dozen informal straw polls ahead of the 1980 GOP caucuses in Iowa. Former CIA director and Congressman George H.W. Bush won all of them and went on to win the 1980 caucuses in Iowa, too. But we know he lost to Ronald Reagan, becoming the vice president. 1999, H.W.'s son, George W. Bush, cruised to victory in a massive straw poll that drew some attendees, 35,000 attendees, cementing his place as the race's front runner. He also went on to win the 2000 caucuses and the nominee. So that's maybe the one-off here. Let's just look back the last time around. Nobody could forget what took place. The hopes of grassroots conservatives bloomed, with Michelle Bachman narrowly defeating U.S. Congressman Ron Paul to take the 2011 straw poll. And while Bachman's victory sucked up a lot of national attention, it never really amounted to anything. Right after that, Rick Perry went into the race. That upset the field completely. And also, we know you can benefit, but you can really lose here, too. Tim Pawlenty, you see right there, he lost. He had put basically all his chips on the table, J.D., and he lost, and he then dropped out immediately after the Ames, Iowa straw poll. A lot of folks thought he was going to be the front runner. Mitt Romney, we know how he wound up in the eventual race. He finished 7th in that one. So let's take a look. Speaking of Romney, right now, a new poll out of Iowa has Romney in the lead, 21%, still 18% uncertain right now. So Romney's beating the uncertain voters. Jeb, 14%, Scott Walker, 10%, Huckabee, 9%, Rand Paul with 8%, Ted Cruz with 7%, Paul Ryan with 5%, who's not running for president, by the way. He said that. Chris Christie, 5%, Marco Rubio, 4%. But, J.D., the stated goal of the Republican Party this election cycle was to not have so many of these beauty contests, but here we are, starting the cycle all over again. Is history repeating itself?
Well, you have to understand, for these state parties, John, whether it's Iowa or Arizona, whether it's South Carolina or South Dakota, with the dynamics of federalism at work, these states have their party apparatus, and they need money, and they want distinction. And the states, regardless of whether or not a governor is Republican or Democrat, they love the revenue and the tourism and the interest that comes. So, in a word, John, no, it's not going to go away, and I think presidential candidates have to be prepared to just hit the road and go see everybody they can.
Now, and we're looking forward to covering these things. It gives us something to talk about as well. But you got to ask yourself now, if you were running for president, is this an event that you would really put a lot of stake in at this point, considering that it doesn't really seem to have a big impact on the final results?
Well, it all depends. For example, for Michelle Bachman, and really more for Tim Pawlenty.
Yeah.
Because if you recall the dynamics of the televised debate that led up to the last Iowa straw poll in Ames, Congresswoman Bachman was able to dispatch the governor of her state, who had serious money and momentum behind him, by just turning a question around on him regarding the EPA. That kind of performance, though it did not work for Michelle Bachman, can show signs of breaking through. And it is to those candidates from the conservative grassroots who may not have the money early, but who can have a signature moment. It didn't come in Iowa. It came prior to the New Hampshire primary in 1980, when then former Governor Reagan said, "I paid for this microphone," and it changed the dynamic in New Hampshire. Breakthrough moments can come, And whether they come in a straw poll or in another venue, it's important to those candidates who may not have the money, may not have the organization to see lightning strike or to capture, to torture another lightning metaphor, to capture it in a bottle, or at least in a ballot, or maybe a straw poll.
Well, also in 2002, I think that was John McCain's strategy to try and go around Iowa and New Hampshire and focus on South Carolina. It didn't really work out for him all that well. And you mentioned Michelle Bachman and what happened with her. You know, I guess there is a place for the Ames, Iowa straw poll, only time will tell. But also, I think it's interesting, JD, this time around, it seems to be two separate primaries taking place. If you look at the way the field is shaping up right now, there's almost a primary for the establishment candidates with Jeb, Mitt, Chris Christie looking like they're running, and then you're going to have the social conservatives and the grassroots conservatives having their own little mini primary going on. Should be, I think, different this time around.
Well,
maybe not so much cannibalization of the establishment versus the grassroots, little politer conversation, their own little circles, and then we can get together and have a healthy debate.
Well, of course, we know that every candidate likes to say, come on, get involved, everyone should be there. But I think the not-so-secret hopes for grassroots conservatives are really summed up by this. Mitt versus Jeb, hallelujah, in marches a conservative. That, at least, is the dynamic a whole lot of people are looking at right now, John.
Yeah, not just Mitt versus Jeb, but we heard Chris Christie's State of the State speech yesterday. Sounded more like a campaign stump speech for president.
You know, I think he's going to have real trouble. That whole Cowboys connection in the Garden State didn't exactly inure to his benefit there or elsewhere nationwide.
Yeah, Cowboys now out of the playoffs, too, and Chris Christie might be out of a political future.
Well, he came out and, as you reviewed earlier, offered all the correct lines in his State of the State message there in New Jersey, talking about staying on the job, but also talking about traveling around the country. And one thing, and I'll say this in all sincerity, anyone who wants to run for president, you underestimate Governor Christie at your own peril. I may not share his positions, but he has proven to be very adroit. They called Bill Clinton the comeback kid. I can tell you that the governor of New Jersey can rally.
Well, Clinton, the only one to lose the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primary, and then
He
go on to
did
get
come
the nominee.
back. Got that right. We're coming back following this update.